Welcome back to the Dugs. On top of the pulse-stopping action we've got in our games today, we'll tell you about the shortest home run of all time, Kirk Ruiter's kleptomania, and we'll explore the sexy strategy of the opener. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your undergarments. The Dugs have posted a new video. Everything we do here is an excuse to tell a lot of baseball stories and a lot of jokes, so if that sounds interesting to you, stay in the know and help us grow with a shiny free subscription to our channel. Also, just a note, we're kind of dropping you right into the middle of a season here, so if you want to start from the beginning, we've got a link to the playlist dropping in at the top of this video right now. The Tucson Tucsoons come into the contest sitting at 2-2, while the Black Sox have not won a game as of yet. It has been a heartbreaker of a tourney for the Black Sox, as they could easily still be in contention, but old habits die hard, and they've suffered losses due to epic collapses and untimely errors. In fact, the last time these two teams met, the Black Sox were up 6-2 in the 8th inning before Charlie Robertson came into the game and surrendered 3 straight home runs. Well, they're going to have to start out from behind today as Dave Nielsen sends this floater of a home run out of the park. That goes for a measly 339 feet and has to be one of the shortest hit home runs in the tourney thus far. It's not even close to the shortest home run of all time, however, as that honor goes to Andy Euler. This guy, and I say this with all due respect because I believe he still has living relatives that might see this, has to be one of the most irritating baseball players I've ever heard of. He was a small dude and he made himself much smaller by twisting himself into this pretzel-like batting stance in order to make his strike zone as small as possible. That's not baseball, that's hot yoga. It seems that the opposing pitcher thought that this whole approach to baseball was as irritating as I do because he fired a fastball at the wee man's head. Well, Andy ducked, undoubtedly squealing like a 19th century woman who had just been scandalized as he did so, but even though he avoids getting hit in the face, the ball hits the bat. It's a fair ball. Now this is where the whole thing starts to sound like a fable and the sources don't necessarily agree on what happened. It trickles 24 inches and gets buried in the mud so deeply that he rounds the bases before the opposing team can find the ball and make a play, connecting for a 2-foot home run. Now I don't know why you're playing baseball in these conditions, but it was the minor leagues, and it was 1953 when players could run in the mud and not have their groins drop straight out of their body like a car dropping its transmission. So, it's the most embarrassing home run of all time, right? Well, it sounds like the family is still celebrating it. Apparently, Andy was so proud of this spectacle that he affixed a stamp to the ball, which apparently they found eventually, and he mailed it to his wife. Years later, the grandson goes on Antiques Roadshow and shows up with a dirty-ass ball that has the remains of an old-ass stamp, and so the thing is valued somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Right after I finish this video, I'm going to go out, buy a shovel, baseball, and some stamps for what I assure you is a totally unrelated reason. This abomination of a home run has actually become a piece of baseball folklore, being the inspiration for a children's book called Mudball, and graces the cover and title of a book full of baseball oddities. So, in closing, nice work on your tallest little person of a home run, Dave Nielsen. Where were we? Right, Black Sox are down 1-0, but they've proven their worth against this Tucson team once, so they know turning it around is possible. Swede Risberg gets that rolling with a double, putting runners on second and third with nobody out here in the bottom of the second. Bird Lynn steps in and records a fielder's choice to tie the game back up at 1. Eddie Murphy keeps it going with a single, so it's 2-1 Sox. And Happy Felsch follows suit as well, 3-1 Sox. The score is 4-1 entering the bottom of the 6th. They just keep on paper cutting the Tucson's Darryl Kyle into submission. The bases load up on the benefit of 2 walks and a single, and Shoeless Joe Jackson comes up to single a 5th run home. So DK comes out of the game after giving up 13 hits and 4 walks in 5 innings, but since the hits were largely singles, the Tucsons are still in this one. Kerry Wood comes in and he doesn't really save the day. He surrenders the sac fly off the bat of Eddie Collins to make it 6-1, and Buck Weaver makes it 7-1 with that single. In the top of the 7th, Tucson says, we can do that too. Josh Hamilton, single. Dave Nielsen, single. Nomar Garciaparra, single. Freddie Sanchez, single. Curt Flood, single. Someone must have handed me my G-string with Hamish's face on it because we are just getting barraged with singles this game. When all is said and done in the 7th, it's 7-4 and Jackie Robinson makes it 7-5 with his 2nd home run of the tourney. Is it another collapse? Not so fast. In the bottom of the 8th, Bird Lynn comes through with a clutch 2-out double to bring another 2 runs home. Who is this guy? I do not remember talking about him. Okay. He's the backup catcher to Ray Schalk, who isn't in the starting lineup despite having a pretty decent tourney thus far, recording a couple home runs while hitting .286. I guess you have to rest him up for, well, the Sox are pretty much eliminated at this point, and I guess he pretty much goes right back to being dead after this, so not sure. Turns out Bird only has one season on the books in the majors as he was shipped out of town shortly before the Black Sox trial. Nothing actually links him to the guilty Sox, but apparently he was pretty tight with Shoeless Joe and Lefty Williams, and it sounds like that was enough. So all that's left to do is to close this one out in the ninth, but naturally, out steps drama in Charlie Robertson. Charlie Robertson of the infinite ERA and the 3 home runs surrendered in 3 at-bats. Season 2 is about redemption. Will he get his? Nomar is down swinging. Freddie Sanchez grounds out, 2 up, 2 down. Ralph Kiner gets on, but Curt Flood follows with a strikeout of his own. The White Sox are in the win column as the Tucson Tucsoons fall to 3-2. It's a pretty meaningless win for the Black Sox, but further underlines the fact that it could have been very different. It was a pretty dominant win today. The Sox recorded 18 hits. Bird Lynn comes out of freaking nowhere and racks up 3 RBIs in a 2-for-5 effort. That said, it wasn't a one-man show as 7 Sox had multiple hits, and Frank Schellenbach put up a good enough outing, going 6 2/3, only giving up 4 earned runs. Let's flip it to the second half of Group B and see if Club Snub can stay undefeated. If they do, they'll wrap up the top spot in the group and lock up home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. The Expos are in a spot of trouble here and need a shocking result. The Black Sox did them a favor by upsetting Tucson for their first win, meaning Tucson's still reachable, but they're going to need 2 great results to close the season. Club Snub doesn't seem to be worried. In fact, they appear to be downright bored. They're 4-0 and in no danger, so they're breaking out their sexy moves and going with an opener. So why use an opener? Reason 1. Doing a bamboozle. You announce that you're starting one guy and then send a different guy, potentially a guy that throws with the opposite arm. The opposing team doesn't know what to do with that. If they've got lineups specialized to right or left-handed pitchers, they might change the starting lineup to better adjust to the surprise entrance to the game. And then, 1 or 2 innings later, you put in your guy that you expect to go deep into the ball game. The opposing lineup isn't optimized to him. Turns out teams have pulled moves like this as far back as the World Series of 1924. Reason 2. Doing a strategery. The best guys are typically at the top of the lineup, so if you have one of your elite relief pitchers come in and face those guys, your long-distance pitcher can hopefully take his first pass at the bottom of the lineup, giving your team the early advantage. You're also giving the opposing team some variety. There's this line of thought that batters improve the more they can get exposed to a pitcher during the game, so if you start with an opener, they're only going to see that guy once, and they're going to see your long-distance starter that much less. Reason number 3, doing a cynical. Doing a cynicism. Sure, why not? I'm not sure the math works out for this one, but there's the line of thought that teams are doing this to save money. Typically, relievers get paid less than your stud starters, and so if you can drain some of those juicy statistics, like wins and starts, you can get some more advantageous results when it comes to contract arbitration. So, let's see how this one works out. The Snubs are the home team, however, so we'll have to wait for a second to see how their pitching situation plays out, because we're going to jump into the top of the first. Gabe White's a starting pitcher, not a reliever, and I know it's one data point, but Jim Edmonds has just made the case that starting pitchers suck. That is a 2-run home run. Montreal's hopes are hanging by a thread, and that thread just got frayed. Those 2 runs are all they get in the first, so let's flip it to the bottom of the inning to see how the opener strategy works out. That opener is Dan Quisenberry. I didn't even know this was a thing, but he signed a lifetime contract with the club in 1983. By 1988, the club may have been regretting that decision as they relegated him to middle relief and then to mop-up duty, and then just straight up released him before he signed with the Cardinals. Now, I'll admit that I don't know everything there is to know about lifetime contracts, but I'm going to have to assume that signing a dead man was a controversial decision at the time, but whatever, still a better pickup than drafting Johnny Manziel. Getting into the action, this is Cliff Floyd with a 1-out single, and then Cliff's still second to get into scoring position. And Larry Walker obliges with a clutch 2-out single to bring a run home and cuts the lead in half. It's now 2-1. But the Snubs get it right back like it's nothing. Lou Whitaker hits a solo shot to lead off the inning. It's once again a 2-run deficit at 3-1. Things settle down for a bit after that, but the top of the 5th finds the Snubs trying to put this one away. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Kirk Reuter comes in to relieve Gabe White. Reuter sounds like a weird guy, so he's got this shed. And by shed, I mean a giant mansion that's not his primary residence, but he sometimes sleeps there. It's called the shed because it's where he stores his stuff. And by stuff, I mean a bunch of things he's stolen from Major League Baseball. He's got a ball from Greg Maddox's 300th win. He's got 162 autographed baseballs displayed on a wall. He was addicted to memorabilia. Story goes that Willie Mays was in town to throw out a first pitch, and he walks in this swanky silk shirt with his catchphrase of "Say Hey" embroidered on the pocket. Well, the shed had gained quite a bit of a reputation at this point, and Curt makes an offhanded comment, "Hey, that shirt would look great in the shed." Willie Mays, legend that he is, starts unbuttoning. So you've got to be happy with that. This 9-time war leader, Hall of Famer, number 6 all-time in career home runs, is about to give you the shirt off his back. Literally. But Kirk, ever the opportunist, follows up with, "Heck, you've got to sign it." And so he does, and that's gotta be it, right? Nope, Kirk grabs the shirt, but doesn't break eye contact. Turns out that Willie's got some flashy black boots on too. So, naturally, Kirk Rueter, who apparently has zero pride, goes for the home run and says, "Well, crap, those boots. Those would look good in the shed too." Can you imagine the absolute gall of the man? Well, long story short, he got it, and Willie left the clubhouse that day in a tank top and flip-flops. Shed indeed. Rueter's got as much memorabilia as the Hall of Fame, and this house, which is magnitudes larger than mine, he calls a shed. I can understand why Rueter struggles with scale. At one point, the San Francisco Giants honored him with a bobblehead. Here is that bobblehead. Good golly, you could store a sandwich in that ear. Anyhow, Rueter comes in, and that is Reggie Smith striking out looking, so he keeps the Expos in it by getting out of it. Rueter, however, does not get out of trouble in the 6th. After walking Buddy Bell, Bill Freehan gets him for a 2-run home run. And after Tiant reaches on an error, Scott Rowland takes him deep for another 2-run bomb. 7-1 Snubs. That'll be more than enough to get it done, as Club Snub eventually takes it down 8-4 in the end. Todd Helton, who we didn't talk about much, snuck in a 4-for-5 performance with a home run, his second of the tourney. The Snubs actually hit 5 home runs in total. And so here's what the standings look like after the game. So Group B is all decided. Snub locks up the top spot. Tucson locks up the second spot. But you know what's not locked up? The entirety of Group A. Group A could not be closer, and in our next video, the final one of the group stage for that group, we'll see who comes out on top and advances to meet the Snubs in Tucson in the playoffs. Those matchups will be the 3-2 Diamonds in the Rough, who are sending Walter Johnson to the mound, as they visit the 2-3 1981 Reds and Bruce Berenier. In the second half, we're going to see Satchel Paige take the mound again after his dominant first outing in support of his Pittsburgh Crawfords as they travel to the 6-out-of-5s in Gaylord Perry. Make your predictions of who's going to win and by what margin in the comments, and we'll continue to tally those results. That'll do it for us today. If you enjoy what we're doing here, comments in the video, liking the video, and those free subscriptions to our channel are the most surefire way to make the Dougs a thing. Next up on the Doug Sports Network, you've heard of extreme ironing. We're bringing you extreme dry cleaning. Our competitors are going to have to venture out to an extreme locale and construct a dry cleaning facility with nothing but the materials available to them there. It could go on for a while, but luckily, we had nothing else in the hopper that couldn't be moved for the next 3 months anyhow. As always, I've been Johnny Paprika, hoping all of your balls are fair and all of your wood is good. Good night, everybody!